So we talked about, the step-by-step process in getting your social efforts up and running, but let's take a look at some of the documents and processes that you might want to have at the ready when you do this. First is your social media checklist, and this is really just a document. This is a screenshot of the text's example of a social media checklist, but it's got all of the account logins for all the various people that are on the social team, so that everybody knows how to get into the platforms. And then you want to make sure you've got your community guidelines, your social media strategy and your content strategy, their different roles and responsibilities, and you're going to have documentation in each of these. This is just the checklists of things that you need. A risks and escalation plan. If something gets pretty ugly in social media, what's your plan and who steps in where, and when do you take that conversation offline, or at least out of the social sphere? You want to have protocols in place for all of that, and that allows the whole team to have the power to escalate if necessary, handle it if they can. Brand voice guidelines, we have these we have brand sort of style guidelines in lots of our digital and non-digital traditional marketing pieces. So the same holds true here, but it's the voice, right? So we want to be authentic, but still have the brand reflected. So guidelines for that, but not spelling out specifically what needs to be said. Social media guidelines for agencies, right? If you're working with a lot of different agencies, you want to make sure that they're all on the same page, and employees. Employees are out there in the social sphere too, so what are your policies and guidelines for them talking about the company, representing the company in that social space? And then your monitoring and listening plan. And what you're going to do with that information. So those are some things that you may want to make sure that you've got in place and ready to go when you launch your social campaigns. And we'll look at a few of these a little more closely. So you want community guidelines, right? So this is something that you'll put out to the community that sort of sets a tone for that community on whether it be Facebook, Pinterest, wherever, Twitter, wherever you are. And you want to indicate in them what will and what will not be tolerated, right? So people know, where they're allowed to sort of play in the space. You want to do this, right? Set the rules, but then also do that in a friendly tone and keeping in your brand personality. You want to make sure that you're reflecting the brand and the brand voice wherever you are, particularly in social. We've talked about content strategy from a macro level in terms of your digital plan, your marketing plan, and here you're going to want a content plan as well. So this will help you plan your community conversations. Again, it's a plan and needs to be adaptable. It helps keep all of your teams aware of efforts, so you've got that integrated communication, and can also bring in elements of your offline campaign. So if things are happening, if you're launching a TV commercial, things like that, or a new campaign or a new product, those can be part of this plan in this conversation calendar. You want to make sure that your content resonates with the audience. Again, authenticity is so important here. You want to make it interesting, relevant, shareable, remarkable, right? If it's not remarkable, people aren't going to share it. If it's not going to be relevant to them or interesting to them or entertain them, they're not going to share it. And the beauty of social is that sharing. So you want to make sure that you're providing that content that's highly, highly shareable. And again, that conversation calendar. So both the planning calendar of what conversations are happening across the quarter or the every 6 months or year or month or however you want to measure that, and then reporting back what happened, what was the engagement, how are we performing against our KPIs. So that's your content plan. Let's talk a little bit about risks and challenges. We've already talked about advantages and challenges of the different platforms, but there is a risk in going out into the social area space. And one is that no one cares what you're saying, right? So you can put all this effort in there and then people just aren't picking it up. Again, this is where the content becomes so important. So making sure that it's timely, relevant, entertaining. Maybe it's entertaining, maybe it's informational, useful. Making sure that it's remarkable. That will help in the sort of no one cares, mitigate that. Social media is not just used by happy customers, it's used by unhappy customers. And so you've got to be prepared for that. People are going to speak positively about you and your brand in the social space, and they're also going to speak negatively about you in the social space. And so you need to have a plan for that. And that is a risk, and it's hard, I think, particularly at the beginning, for brands to deal with that. It requires that ongoing attention and monitoring. Again, you can't. The reason to be in social is to have a conversation. If you don't have the resources to put in there to have that conversation, then you shouldn't be in social. There are other digital channels, there are other traditional channels that you should be in, but not here, because you want that conversation. So you want to make sure that you've got the resources in place to have that, and then you also want to monitor what's being said. And while we have all these tracking tools, it's difficult to measure impact, right? How did this conversation on Facebook affect my sales? That's difficult to say. It's very hard to track someone through that whole process. So you want to make sure that you're measuring against objectives of brand engagement or maybe sentiment, things like that. It's hard to measure the impact right on the bottom line.